Welcome to our Communiversity today, sponsored by Pendleton Community Bank and Cucumber and Company, a community affairs program from West Virginia Institute of Technology in Beckley, hosted by Dr. T. Ramon Stewart, president of West Virginia University Institute of Technology, working to make a difference in Southern West Virginia. Guest opinions expressed on this program may not represent the opinions of West Virginia University Institute of Technology, Southern Communications, or its sponsors. And now, with today's program, here's Dr. Stewart.
Welcome to our Communiversity today. I'm Dr. Ramon Stewart, president of WVU Tech here in Beckley. And I'm thankful that you chose to be with us today as we explore our Communiversity. As I say all the time, I believe that Communiversity signifies that the community is the university and the university is the community. And I think that's so important because as we think about where our world is, when you think about where it's been, where it is, where it needs to go, one of the things that we need to do is stay cutting edge, not only in technology, but also educating the individuals that can fully embrace various professions. One of those professions made famous by shows like CSI, that profession is forensic investigation. And we're going to talk a little bit about the role of a forensic investigator with none other than Andrew Willer, who serves as an associate professor of forensic investigation at WVU Tech. And through this exploration, we'll learn about how the field has evolved. We'll learn about what WVU Tech and Professor Willer are doing to educate the next forensic investigators, but we will also expose you to what you can do too. So, as always, our goal on our Communiversity today is to ask and answer two questions. Simply, why not us and why not now? So right after this break, we'll be back with more our Communiversity today on News Talk WWNR.
Bank with purpose and Golden Bear pride. At Pendleton Community Bank, our WVU Tech Affinity debit card does more than make purchases. It makes a difference. Every swipe supports the William Bill Benn Student Success Fund, helping WVU Tech students facing financial hardships stay on track to achieve their dreams. Show your school spirit and help shape the future, one transaction at a time. Visit yourbank.bank to get started today. Pendleton Community Bank, here for students, here for community, here for you. Member FDIC, an equal housing lender.
Discover WVU Tech right in your backyard. With 6 ABET accredited engineering programs ranked among the top 100 for engineering and nursing nationwide, WVU Tech offers the best return on investment in West Virginia. Our small, supportive campus is home to high-demand programs in fields like hospitality and culinary, chemical forensics, and the only 4-year construction management degree in West Virginia. Learn more about all the exciting things happening at Tech at wvutech.edu today.
If you want a real cool website, I'll tell you what to do. Call them cats at Cucumber and they'll build a site for you. Our people are so friendly and our updates are the fastest. All it's gonna cost $100 plus taxes.
These cats build, host, and update for just $100 a month.
Oh yeah!
Find out how at 304-250-0123 or at cucumberandcompany.com.
Welcome back to our Communiversity today. Again, we're visiting with Andrew Willer, who's an associate professor of forensic investigation at WVU Tech. Andrew, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
You know what? I better not complain. I tell listeners all the time, all my good days outweigh my bad days, so I should not complain. And speaking of that, Andrew, you're a local person. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I am. My father was from here. My mom's from here. My grandfather owned a chain of supermarkets in the 50s, 60s, 70s. And I worked as a bag boy when I was a teenager and went to Woodrow Wilson High School and then went away for a little while, did some investigation work, came back to Beckley. I taught at Mountain State long before I started teaching at Tech and helped develop the forensics program there. And then we moved that to Tech to great success. And now we're back here in Beckley. It's wonderful.
All right. So, you know, you have roots here in Southern West Virginia. You say your grandfather had some grocery store chains and you started bagging groceries, sweeping floors. How did you go from that to investigations?
I think I might have always wanted to do, I've always wanted to be an investigator since I was little. I used to run around in a shirt and tie pretending to be Hawaii Five-0 when I was 5 and 6 in the neighborhood. I was a little weird kid.
And so you were walking up and down the aisles of the grocery store, kind of investigating the most affordable product?
I was definitely always doing some kind of investigation, mostly in my imagination.
So when you decided you wanted to be an investigator, what are some of the things that you had to do? Did you have to go through a formal education, or do you just up and decide I want to be inch high, private eye?
Well, I got hired by a private investigation firm and did some investigation work for them for quite a number of years. And then I decided I wanted to open up my own, but realized I didn't have quite the skills that I needed to really shine. So at the time, there were only 3 forensic programs in the nation. And one of them was up in D.C. at George Washington University. And that was within commuting distance. So I would drive up on Mondays, stay all week in D.C., drive back on the weekends, do my investigation work here, and pursued some higher level training, focusing on some criminal investigation work and getting my criminal investigation skills that way.
And so I find that very neat. At the time that you entered into the profession, only 3 programs, and you did have one relatively local, even though that's pretty far. Now, did this predate, things like CSI on TV, or was it kind of parallel?
I think it predated it. It was, I was in grad school studying forensics the year that OJ trial was going on. Mm-hmm. So that was parallel. I'd already been enrolled and the OJ trial hit. And so that was kind of the backdrop of my time.
I think the punchline or the tagline in that, from your all's field, is if it doesn't fit, you must acquit. Is that the right one?
And there's lots of, using the gloves and contaminating the blood and just all of the drama associated with that story.
And I think that Mark Furman recently passed away, who was the primary investigator. So just, do you know if Mark was trained in the way you're trained?
I would say probably not, for sure. There were only 3 universities that were training forensic level work. At that time, it was more of a apprenticeship where you worked under somebody who worked under somebody who worked under somebody and learned went to a couple training seminars and got a certification. Very old school, not much in the way of higher education related to the people who were practicing in that field. So things have changed definitely since the 90s.
Yeah, I think that's a point that we need to hone in on a little bit, because many of our listeners will remember the white Bronco chase, the low speed, long chase that was on national TV. And then I think with Johnny Cochran and different people, that was one of the first trials that we really got to see. I can remember where I was when the OJ verdict came out, because they actually turned the TVs on. But to hear you talk about the progression of forensics and forensics investigation, but was that really the first big case where forensics really started to come into play?
Probably not. No, there were cases involving blood spatter, the fugitive story that had a lot to do with the blood spatter case. And of course, even in the 1890s when Arthur Conan Doyle was writing about Sherlock Holmes, that was sort of, I guess, the introduction to forensics, Edgar Allan Poe.
And so, but it has evolved tremendously since the forensics, the handling, as you said, maybe the police officers or the investigators involved in a case like the O.J. Simpson case, they probably had not been a graduate of one of those 3 programs that were around at that time.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And so tell us a little bit about that formal education. You're inquisitive, which made you want to be an investigator, but how do you take that inquisitive mind, that practical, and couple it with the theoretical from the class?
Yeah, I think that the big focus is in recognizing your own biases and taking steps to address those ahead of time. That investigators I see it even now that without a little bit of education, sometimes they're quick to rush to a judgment or be convinced that they know what happened based on a pattern that they're familiar with, and they haven't taken the time to slow down. There's a famous book by, I think it's Daniel Kahneman, Thinking Fast and Thinking Slow. I think that's the name of the book, but it's about gut reactions versus deliberate actions, and how responding to your gut is a very efficient way to get answers, and they're often correct, but they can lead you down the wrong path pretty quickly. And in the modern world, sometimes most of the time, it's safe to take a beat and say, let me reconsider this. What are the other factors involved? And I think the value of a broad education is that it prepares you to address issues in ways that you wouldn't have thought come to play. It's all about connections. When we're looking for evidence, I tell my students that nothing is evidence until it fits a narrative or doesn't fit a narrative. That evidence, by definition, is some information that fits into an argument one way or the other. If it doesn't fit into an argument, it's not evidence. Now, there are some things that typically always fit into a criminal argument. If you have a weapon, you have a shell casing, if you have blood, those are things that very often, if they're present, they definitely connect to an argument at the scene. But sometimes they don't connect. Sometimes the blood you find at the scene was from, a hunter, or the shell casing is someone who is an avid shooter and it doesn't have anything related to the scene. And so taking a beat and asking, does this fit? Does this not fit? It's an important step. And I think that education helps with that.
Yeah. I think it's so important. You talked about how education helps you address the bias that you may have. And I think oftentimes many of us go into a situation thinking we know what we know, but not realizing that we may be narrowly focused. Tell me, what do you do real quick that allows you to eliminate some of that particular bias?
Start off with as many theories as you can come up with. Start off with a broad spectrum. So if you see a scene, maybe you've had this happen to you where you're watching a movie and you say, oh, I know who did it, or you know what's coming next. And you don't consider alternatives and you latch onto that. Well, now you own it. And now you've got some cognitive dissonance. There's a little bit of a personal loss. You've made a mistake. There's a little bit of ego involved in that. And it's difficult to dial it back when the evidence starts pointing in the wrong direction. In fact, your brain will prevent you from experiencing that pain by hiding the evidence. If you've ever lost your keys and couldn't find them, and then you ask your significant other where the keys are, and they say, oh, they're on the coffee table. And you say, no, I looked on the coffee table, and you know that they're not there. And then they go over and they pick up the keys and they're right on the coffee table.
Yeah, it's just amazing what our brain can do.
Once you believe something, you've got that bias to latch onto that belief. So as an investigator, not picking one particular story and recognizing, okay, this could have been one thing. What else could have happened? This could be another thing. What else could have happened? This, and get as many stories as you can. And that takes creativity. That's not a deductive process. That's a creative process. And it's that creative process where you're able to imagine different stories, or you've been exposed to different stories. If you've read a lot, seen a lot of movies, watched a lot of TV shows, read a lot of books, then you've got lots of stories and scenarios that you can sort of pull from to sort of
keeping that open mind, questions, and really delving in. And I appreciate that. Ladies and gentlemen, again in studio, Andrew Wheeler, professor of forensic investigation. We're going to take a short break, so stay tuned to News Talk WWNR for more Our Communiversity Today.
Discover WVU Tech right in your backyard. With 6 ABET accredited engineering programs ranked among the top 100 for engineering and nursing nationwide, WVU Tech offers the best return on investment in West Virginia. Our small, supportive campus is home to high-demand programs in fields like hospitality and culinary, chemical forensics, and the only 4-year construction management degree in West Virginia. Learn more about all the exciting things happening at Tech at wvutech.edu today.
If you want a real cool website, I'll tell you what to do. Call them cats at Cucumber and they'll build a site for you. Our people are so friendly and our updates are the fastest. All it's gonna cost $100 plus taxes.
These cats build, host, and update for just $100 a month.
Oh yeah!
Find out how at 304-250-0123 or at cucumberandcompany.com.
Bank with purpose and Golden Bear pride. At Pendleton Community Bank, our WVU Tech Affinity debit card does more than make purchases. It makes a difference. Every swipe supports the William Bill Benn Student Success Fund, helping WVU Tech students facing financial hardships stay on track to achieve their dreams. Show your school spirit and help shape the future, one transaction at a time. Visit yourbank.bank to get started today. Pendleton Community Bank, here for students, here for community, here for you. Member FDIC, an equal housing lender.
Welcome back to our Communiversity today. Again in studio is Andrew Willer, who's an associate professor of forensic investigation. And we're talking about how his formal training, coupled with his practical knowledge and then teaching, helps build the next forensic investigators. And so, Andrew, you've been a professor for how long now?
I think I started in 2002, 2003.
Okay, so coming up, soon you'll be at 30 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. Think 6 years from now, 30 years. But with that, you talked about what formal education did for you. You've been, and one of the things I learned about with Mountain State, who had an excellent forensic program, you all were even leaders that led the patents and stuff. So tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, well, at the time, we had a faculty member. He actually came on in the mid-2000s, 2006, 2007, I think. His name was David Weaver, and he had developed a fuming gun with, I think, the 3M Corporation. He had co-developed this with and super glue, cyanoacrylate, is one of the tools that we use to develop fingerprints. I've actually done a little bit of research and got a published article on cyanoacrylate fuming. It's turns out that the super glue, you can heat it up after it's dried, and then it will turn into a vapor, and then it will redeposit sort of like dew on a fingerprint. And so it turns back hard like a little plastic shell around the fingerprint residue. And he developed a device called a fingerprint wand. I think it was a wand. I think that's the name of it. It was a fingerprint wand, but it was essentially it was a soldering iron with a little adapter on the end of it with a cartridge filled with super glue, and the soldering iron would heat up, would vaporize the super glue, and you could put it over an area where you thought there was a fingerprint or where you could see a little bit of fingerprint residue, and then the super glue would adhere to the fingerprint to develop.
And that's amazing to know that something that is still in a variation or derivation still utilized today emanated from right here on South Canal Street.
Yeah.
And so, having that type of access or that type of understanding, but you also do some interesting things in the classroom with the crime scene house. Tell us about the crime scene house.
Okay, well, we have a dedicated house that is set up for mock crime scenes. We have a living room and a bedroom and an office and a kitchen, dining room. And we set those rooms up with different scenarios for different classes. Some of the classes initially in the beginning are pretty simple. You might have a couple pieces of evidence. We've got some mannequins that we use as bodies, and the students document the scene as if they would be doing an investigation. They photograph. In upper level classes, we have a death investigation class, and they may actually do some analysis where they're trying to collect evidence. We may set up mock scenarios where they've got seniors might play different roles, like the first responder, or there might be witnesses, or the neighbor, and they've got a little script that they go through, and then the students have to solve the mock crime that we've set up. And
so how often do the students get into the crime scene house?
depending on the class, a lot. So since we've gotten a faculty member who specializes in crime scene work, Professor Vasilio, he's just incredibly gifted at that sort of stuff and has years of experience working that stuff. He's taken over most of those lab-oriented classes, and I've been I do more of the theoretical type of classes now, and I teach an interviewing class and an intelligence class, and so that's sort of my purview. But his classes are in there many times a semester, pretty much all semester, I think, photographing and doing scenes.
And see, I think that's the part of forensics that people have gotten attracted to is the crime scenes, the blood spatter, the body decomposition, I think, at the University of Tennessee,
right.
The body form. Those are things. But you said you specialize in intelligence and interviewing. Okay.
Yes.
So, interviewing, when you're interviewing for a situation, what are things that you're looking for?
If I'm doing it right, I'm not looking for anything. So again, it comes back to that sort of protecting against your own bias and being open. So it's asking very broad, general questions instead of asking, did you ever see such and such lying or being suspicious? The better question would be is about, tell me about John. How do you know them? Tell me about, your interactions. Tell me about this relationship.
So do you find that people just can't go without telling the truth?
What do you mean by that? I'm not sure.
Well, when you think about it, you ask the big, open, broad questions. If you found John had a gun in his hand and you had residue and everything, John probably did something with that gun.
Sure.
That's not a bias. To me, that's a fact. Okay. Can John legitimately tell you that he had nothing to do with that gun and you believe it?
Well, he might tell me that he didn't have anything he had with a gun, but if I've got all that physical evidence and then he tells me he's never touched it, well, that's worse than him giving me an explanation for why he might have it. And if I start off with, tell me about the gun, well, now he's coming up with excuses. Well, he knows about the gun. I need to come up with an excuse for why I had it. Whereas if I don't mention it at all, and I just said, tell me about this event, what happened? And he never mentions the gun, then, all right, well, that's telling it of itself. So allowing the individual to sort of set the priorities, set the parameters of what they want to disclose and what they want to conceal. We all want to conceal something. We've all got things that are embarrassing to us. He might have been out with a girlfriend that he didn't want somebody to know about. Could have been anything that he was.
Like his mistress or something.
Yeah. So, people will lie or conceal for lots of reasons that are not related to the crime. And that can be confounding because you've got somebody that appears to be deceptive, but they're being deceptive for a reason that's not related to the crime.
So along those lines, you get people, and sometimes we can start to believe our own lies. You say something over and over and over. Have you ever worked with somebody that looked guilty, but they were actually innocent?
All the time. And that's the most frustrating part is when you're working the defense and little pieces of the story that for whatever reason never get to the jury. And you're thinking, oh my goodness, if they'd only known this or if they'd only known that, this would have been different. But for whatever reason, the rules of evidence didn't allow that information in.
So in your opinion, have you seen an innocent person go to jail?
I don't know. Okay.
That was a good politically correct answer, by the way.
Oh, well, thanks. But I think that's the, I think few people know, even when they are direct witnesses to an event, what happened. I mean, if you've ever been to a magic show, you see something that appears to be one thing, and when you relay what happened, it's an impossibility. It didn't happen that way, but you don't have an explanation for it if the magician was good. And so it's easy to have those little accidental magic moments where your perception is distorted because your focus was there. I had a case involving a shooting, and the mother of the accused was present. And of course, she's got her bias of what was going on. But when I asked her to tell me what happened, she gave me all of these really minute details about everything in the space. And it was just implausible that she remembered what the bullet injury looked like and where this person was standing over here and where this person was behind her and who said this at this point. There was just no way that she remembered, and she had really vivid details. Well, she had rehearsed this in her mind and created this story and basically pieced it together. Our brain doesn't work like a tape recorder. We remember things because we believe them to be true. And so if you can change somebody's belief about a situation, their memory will adjust to it. In that same case, the defendant told he believed it, this story about, being blinded by the headlights of this car, and it was dark outside. But at the time of the incident, it was, the sun was still out.
Definitely was not. I mean, I think this is just amazing, and we can go on and on. I'm just trapped in, but we're going to have to take a short break. So stick with News Talk WWNR as we close out this edition of our Communiversity Today.
Discover WVU Tech right in your backyard. With 6 ABET accredited engineering programs ranked among the top 100 for engineering and nursing nationwide, WVU Tech offers the best return on investment in West Virginia. Our small, supportive campus is home to high-demand programs in fields like hospitality and culinary, chemical forensics, and the only 4-year construction management degree in West Virginia. Learn more about all the exciting things happening at Tech at wvutech.edu today.
If you want a real cool website, I'll tell you what to do. Call them cats at Cucumber and they'll build a site for you. Our people are so friendly and our updates are the fastest. All it's gonna cost $100 plus taxes.
These cats build, host, and update for just $100 a month.
Oh yeah!
Find out how at 304-250-0123 or at cucumberandcompany.com.
Bank with purpose and Golden Bear pride. At Pendleton Community Bank, our WVU Tech Affinity debit card does more than make purchases. It makes a difference. Every swipe supports the William Bill Benn Student Success Fund, helping WVU Tech students facing financial hardships stay on track to achieve their dreams. Show your school spirit and help shape the future, one transaction at a time. Visit yourbank.bank to get started today. Pendleton Community Bank, here for students, here for community, here for you. Member FDIC, an equal housing lender.
Welcome back to our Communiversity Today. Again, I want to thank our guest, Andrew Willer, who's an associate professor of forensic investigation at WVU Tech, for not only sharing his time, but also his talent with our listeners. And listeners, if you're like me, I'm sitting in studio with Professor Willer, and I'm just leaning over in my chair, captivated by every word. Again, the ability to couple the practical with the theoretical, and then not only do that, but work in a way that allows that experience to train and to develop the next generation of forensic investigators. I think this is so powerful that we cannot stop with one episode. I'm going to bring Professor Willer in for part 2 of this conversation because there's so much more to learn, so much more to understand, not only about Professor Willer, but also about the young people that are being trained and developed here in Southern West Virginia to be able to, when something occurs, piece together things in an open and honest manner that allows us all to not only be safe, but also to care for one another. So please visit WWNRradio.com for additional information about forensic investigation and Professor Willer, and also how you can help build our Communiversity today for a brighter Southern West Virginia tomorrow.
You've been listening to Our Communiversity Today, sponsored by Pendleton Community Bank and Cucumber and Company. a production of West Virginia University Institute of Technology and Communiversity partner, Southern Communications in Beckley. For more on this program and contact information, visit our website at wwnrradio.com.